Hey, welcome to Socialism for All. Today's date is January 20, 2022. Coming back with some content as we head into the weekend. It's only Thursday now, but of course the weekend's on its way, as at least for people who work the traditional Monday through Friday, increasingly a smaller and smaller contingent. But anyway, we're starting things off with another COVID article. It's true, we will have other articles on other subjects this weekend, but I wanted to pick up with COVID because we just had 2 million cases in the last 2 days. I think one day was like 1.2 million, the other day was 800,000. So peaking, yeah, the 7 day average just went up again. So I would hold off on that. I mean, this is the consequence of unmitigated spread. You do not control diseases by letting them spread. That's literally the opposite. So here's an article out of the University of Minnesota's Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy. The title is "A Third of Ohio Deer Test Positive for COVID-19 Virus." So this is credited to Jim Wapes, editorial director at CIDRAP News, and it's fairly recent, 3 weeks ago, December 29, 2021. You may have heard previously that cats can catch COVID, and in fact, feline coronavirus is kind of a big problem. It can cause organ failure, etc. But now we can add deer to the list. So researchers found SARS coronavirus 2, that's COVID-19, in 36%, 1 in 3, of white-tailed deer in Ohio, with evidence of deer-to-deer spread, according to a study late last week in Nature. Though a study last month found about the same level of COVID-19 infection in Iowa deer, and Canada reported SARS coronavirus 2 in deer earlier this month, evidence from the new study, quote, leads toward the idea that we might actually have established a new maintenance host outside of humans, said Andrew Bowman, DVM, PhD, Associate Professor of Veterinary Preventive Medicine at The Ohio State University, and the senior author in an Ohio State news release. Infection rate as high as 70%. Ohio State University scientists obtained nasal swab samples from 360 white-tailed deer at 9 sites in January through March 2021 in northeastern Ohio and found that 129, or 25.8%, tested positive for SARS coronavirus 2 via real-time PCR test, polymerase chain reaction. The deer had been culled in an effort to control the population. Okay, so basically commenting these deer were killed as part of population control efforts, and then they tested them for COVID, and 1 in 4, a little over 1 in 4, had COVID. Continuing, each site was sampled up to 3 times, for a total of 18 sample collection dates. Deer in 6 locations were infected with 3 SARS coronavirus 2 lineages, B.1.2, B.1.582, B.1.596, none of which are variants of concern. The B.1.2 viruses, dominant in people in the state at the time of testing, infected deer at 4 sites. The researchers analyzed the evolutionary relationships of the lineages and found evidence for 6 human-to-deer transmission events. The authors also note, quote, probable deer-to-deer transmission of B.1.2, B.1.582, and B.1.596 viruses was observed, unquote, as they noted mutations to the viral spike protein in some deer samples that are not commonly seen in human infections. So commenting there, just to pause for a minute, so what they're saying is that they found evidence for deer catching COVID from humans on at least 6 different occasions. So basically you have the population of deer. There are 6 separate entry points of COVID to that population from humans. Of course, it's very unlikely that, all those deer could have caught COVID directly from humans, so they were looking at evidence of deer-to-deer transmission. And they think that it's probable because they noticed mutations in the spike protein on the coronavirus in the deer samples that you don't often see in humans, so it probably mutated that way within the deer population. All right. The investigators said that the prevalence of infection, that's the percentage of a population which has a disease at a particular time, varied from 13.5% to 70% across the 9 sites, with the highest prevalence observed in 4 sites that were surrounded by more densely populated, obviously human neighborhoods. So the gears are turning for me on what this means, but obviously one of the preliminary things, there's still a little bit left to the article, is that in some of these cases, more than 2 out of 3 deer had COVID in like a particular population. And that the deer populations that were more likely to have the higher percentages or higher prevalence of infection were ones that were closer to like human residential neighborhoods. So continuing, could complicate COVID-19 control. Quote, based on evidence from other studies, we knew that deer were being exposed in the wild and that in the lab we could infect them and the virus could transmit from deer to deer. Here, we're saying that in the wild, they are infected, Bowman said in the release, quote, and if they can maintain it, we have a potential new source of SARS coronavirus 2 coming into humans. That would mean that beyond tracking what's in people, we'll need to know what's in the deer, too, unquote. So when they say a potential new source of SARS coronavirus 2 coming into humans, they're saying that basically it can incubate in the deer and then spread back to humans. So this is why you cannot let it spread rampantly, because it's a failure on every goddamn level. I'm so enraged at what they're doing. The COVID policy makes no sense because it's spreading and spreading. Wild animals are catching it from humans. And then the wild animals, they can't just do a shutdown or whatever like we could be doing. And so they're going to incubate it. And then how long before it, mutates into something really dangerous and then hops back into the human population? Just amazing and incredible. Really just the extent to which the public health response has been mutated, if you will, mutilated by capital. They're just not letting the U.S. government the government is there to serve capital, and they're telling them don't do the things that any sensible public health response would do because it's a business-first approach. Continuing. Sample collection occurred before the more transmissible Delta and Omicron variants were known to be infecting people, and the Ohio State team did not detect either variant in the deer. The researchers are testing more samples to check for new variants, as well as older variants, to see if indeed the deer population is serving as a viral reservoir. Quote, the working theory based on our sequences, that is the genetic sequences, is that humans are giving it to deer, and apparently we gave it to them several times, Bowman said. We have evidence of 6 different viral introductions into those deer populations. He said of the study, it could complicate future mitigation and control plans for COVID-19, unquote, end of article. Well, fortunately, in air quotes, there are no future mitigation and control plans. So I don't think it's going to complicate them at all, because they're not doing anything. Anyway, we'll come back to that. I've covered that a lot. Like, obviously, what the U.S. is doing is just falling so far short even of the bare minimum. It's absurd. What are they doing? Free vaccines. Okay, great. What else are they doing? Well, this week they're mailing out 4 rapid tests per household that signs up. So, if you got more than 4 people in your household, tough shit. And also, if you wanted, let's say there's 2 people in your household, great, you get 2 rapid tests per person. Then what? And I guess that they're mailing out N95s too. Guess what? N95s are not supposed to be reused. You know why? Because when you breathe through them, all the shit that the mask is filtering gets stuck to the outside of the mask. So you're supposed to throw it away because it's just got all that shit on the outside, including virus. So if you touch the outside of the mask, it gets on your hands. And then what? It's approximately 20 seconds before your hands wind up in your eyes, nose, or mouth because we're constantly wiping our faces. So yeah, okay, unless you're sending like a box of 30 masks, which is enough for a month, and you're planning to do that next month too, this just isn't sufficient at all. Again, 2 million cases, and that's just what they're counting, because rapid tests, do they get reported? Well, if you do a rapid test, you test positive, and then you go for a PCR test, maybe the PCR test will get reported and counted. Otherwise, I would expect the case count to appear to go down for a while as people get more rapid tests because people are going to be testing. They may not follow up with an official test. But beyond that, okay, you're doing some more testing. Great. But if you're not informing your policy by the, like, for example, test positivity rate, then how much good does it really do? I mean, yeah, a person might know if they're positive or not, but like as far as actual mitigation plans on a society-wide basis, it used to be when we had that first shutdown in, March and April 2020, the World Health Organization recommended a test positivity rate of 5% or under for 2 weeks before reopening. Now, for example, Texas is running at 35% test positivity as of last week. And like nothing is shutting down at all. So all you've really done is stuck a gauge on how fast your society is dying. Otherwise, what else are they doing? Quarantine and isolation? They cut it in half. And again, do you need a test to get out of quarantine? It's just fighting about everything. Are they doing an N95 mask mandate? No, they won't even recommend N95s at the CDC, as of the last time I checked a few days ago. How about paying people to stay home, getting those unemployment benefits going again, which lapsed in August, September, and have not been renewed, and there's been no discussion of renewing them. And if they did renew them, how about rethinking the essential workers situation, making it so that workers in quote-unquote essential industries also qualify for benefits. They can stay home if they want to. And then workers who do want to go out and work get hazard pay. Then what else do you need to do? You need to make sure that the facilities, which are deemed essential and must stay open, get outfitted with air purification and other safety measures. How about remote learning again? Like on and on and on it goes. Because we have a capitalist economy, which is decentralized with all these private owners, they cannot coordinate that kind of response. They just cannot do it. I mean, what could they do? Like mandate that all the private employers, outfit their facilities this way? I got news for you. Plenty of places aren't up to snuff as far as OSHA and other safety concerns are as it is. Now, you could do that, but like, is that at all in line with, the kind of response we've seen from the government so far? No. So, I mean, there are all kinds of things that they could be doing. They're really not doing the vast majority of them, nor are they even considering them. And they get defensive and mocking when a lot of these things are brought up. The result, 2 million cases in the last 2 days. So now we found out that deer may be serving as a viral reservoir, as it were. And the thing that I was going to say when I said that this got my gears turning is, okay, we know that the deer caught COVID on at least 6 different occasions. Now, here's the real question. How? Because if you know anything about deer, they're not like generally the kind of animal where they let humans come up and pet them. So again, this goes back to COVID being airborne. Where did the deer catch the COVID from exactly? Was there a human standing 30 feet away and breathing normally, and the deer just breathed some aerosol particles? Like, this is kind of an interesting thing. Like, did they get it from food that had been thrown out? Deer aren't usually a big one for garbage. They're herbivores. They eat leaves and garden plants and things. So this is kind of curious. And I think that it may have some implications on just our knowledge of the transmissibility of COVID. I'd be very interested to hear how the leap from humans to deer was made because, like I said, it's just hard to get physically close to a deer in most cases. Now, I know that there are some cases where people like feed deer regularly. I don't know why you would do this because then they're going to eat all the stuff around your property. But, I know that there are some cases where people have sort of tamed deer. But anyway, like I said, that would be an interesting topic. So there you go. Just another dimension, another angle to think about here as we continue the work of trying to stay informed and trying to survive this pandemic. Really, I don't, it's a hugely upsetting topic for me. I got to say, I saw the 2 million cases in the last 2 days last night, And I was done for the rest of the night. I was just like, I can't even fucking deal with this anymore. So anyway, what do you think? Leave a comment or question below. We'll continue the discussion there as always. Otherwise, thanks for listening. Stay tuned for more videos coming this weekend. Thanks to the current patrons whose names are on the screen. If you'd like to get your name on the screen, head to patreon.com/socialismforall. You can sign up for really any dollar amount from $2 and up that you'd like to sign up for. I really appreciate all of those. It keeps the content flowing, so I really appreciate it. Otherwise, like, share, subscribe the videos, leave a comment, even if it's just good video or thanks. All of that helps to boost the channel and the videos in the YouTube algorithm. And the channel did just cross 5,800 subscribers. So we are growing. Thanks to everyone for your contributions, because you have helped to make that growth happen. It's really exciting to see. Also, back in the real world, join an organization. Try to find something in your area that has the kind of politics and is doing the kind of real world work that you would like to get involved with. If it's a healthy organization, gets back to you in a reasonable amount of time, doesn't seem super dysfunctional, go for it. At least make a contribution if you're not ready to join. We need organizations because, the U.S. left is so disorganized, it's hard to even call a mass protest or something. We really need to rebuild organizations and make sure that they're good organizations. Or start a project of your own. That's always good to see as well. Anyway, thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you in the next video.